And we'll jump straight into questions today. Sagar, go ahead.
Great. Sarah, there have been some suggestions in the media today that the president does in fact suffer from heart disease, that his weight is larger than was indicated yesterday. Does the White House stand by Dr. Jackson's report?
Absolutely. Dr. Jackson has been a White House physician for the last 12 years, trusted by Presidents Bush, President Obama, and now President Trump. He is the only doctor that has weighed in on this matter, that has actually examined the president. And so I think a doctor that has spent the amount of time with the president, as Dr. Jackson has, is not only the most qualified, but the only credible source when it comes to diagnosing any health concerns. And we support what he said yesterday 100%, that the president is in excellent health. And I think he exhausted just about every question that you guys have and showed probably that he's in pretty good health too, to stand up here for an hour and take questions. John?
Not too long ago, Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona took the Senate floor to again denounce the president, this time likening him to Stalin in his approach toward the media, saying that he's inspired dictators the world over. This is of a pair with a statement from Senator John McCain saying that the president should stop attacking the press. At some point today, you're supposed to give out fake news awards. What do you think of what Senators Flake and McCain have said, and what's up with the awards?
In response to Senator Flake specifically, I found it quite interesting that he is coming out to attack this president, considering he's one that was recently defending an actually oppressive regime. He went to Cuba a few weeks ago and served as a mouthpiece for the oppressive Cuban government. He's not criticizing the president because he's against oppression. He's criticizing the president because he has terrible poll numbers. And he is, I think, looking for some attention. I think it's unfortunate. And certainly, I think our position here at the White House is that we welcome access to the media every day. I'm standing right here taking questions. The president does so regularly, and to act as if we're anything but open to that back and forth exchange is utterly ridiculous.
What about following on what Senator McCain said and then the awards today?
I haven't had a chance to read all of what Senator McCain said.
And the awards?
We'll keep you guys posted. It'll be something later today. Margaret.
We'll be looking for that. Sarah,
I know you're all waiting to see if you are big winners, I'm sure.
Indeed. There's been frustration from both Republicans and Democrats who were in the room yesterday with Steve Bannon when he was being asked about some of the claims that he's made about this administration and the president's family. But specifically, some of the criticism has been aimed at the White House because of guidance that has supposedly been given as to what can and cannot be said, specific topics that are off limit, and the scope of executive privilege. Without getting into the details of that, can you at least define for us what the White House is telling attorneys falls into the scope of executive privilege here?
Yeah, I can tell you that this White House is following the same practice that many White Houses before us have, that have gone back decades, that there is a process that you go through. Anytime you have congressional inquiries touching upon White House, the Congress should consult with the White House prior to obtaining confidential material. This is part of a judicial recognized process. We want to follow through that. We've been fully cooperative with the ongoing investigations, and we're going to continue to do so. And we encourage the committees to work with us to find the appropriate accommodation in order to ensure Congress obtains all the information that they're looking for. But there's a process this works through, and it's not just isolated to this instance. Executive privilege is something that goes back decades because it's something that needs to be protected, whether it's during this administration or 120 years from now. We want to make sure we follow the process and the precedent, and that's all that's taking place here.
Allegations that the scope of that executive privilege, not just the time in the administration, but time after and time during the transition, is broader than it has been in past administrations.
I can't
Is that
speak to the
accurate?
details of that. I can simply talk about the process and that we're following the same process and past practice of previous
And
administrations.
are there off-limit categories that the White House?
Again, I
is
can't get
rejecting?
into the details. I can only discuss the process. Ashley?
Thank you. Following on that question, there's a news report out today that Steve Bannon's attorney was relaying the questions he was asked by the Senate Intel Committee in real time to the White House. And so my questions are, who was he relaying the questions to? Is that something the White House specifically asked his attorney to do? And if so, why did the White House think that was a necessary step in handling Bannon's testimony?
That's the same process that is typically followed. Sometimes they actually have a White House attorney present in the room. This time it was something that was relayed via phone, and again, was following standard procedure for an instance like this, and something that will likely happen again on any other number of occasions, not just within this administration, but future administrations. Jordan?
Thanks, Sarah. The House Republican leadership is proposing a funding bill that would provide the government funding through February 16th and reauthorize CHIP for 6 years. Is that a proposal that the White House supports?
We do support the short-term CR. However, that's not our first choice. We'd still like to see a clean funding bill, a 2-year budget deal, but we do support the short-term CR, but we're going to continue moving forward in that process. Ken?
Sarah, does the president think it's acceptable for Republicans or Democrats to allow a government shutdown at the end of the week? And you have obviously different options here, but does he think it's acceptable for a shutdown to occur?
The president certainly doesn't want to shut down, and if one happens, I think you only have one place to look, and that's to the Democrats, who are holding our military and our national security hostage by trying to push through other policies that have nothing to do with the budget. We would like to, again, get a budget deal done, a 2-year budget deal, a clean budget deal, and then focus on negotiations. Following that deal with finding a permanent solution to DACA and responsible immigration reform. We've said that many times before. Our position has not changed.
Republicans control Congress, they control the White House.
Takes
Is it
60
your
votes, and
responsibility?
Republicans don't have 60 votes. So Democrats either need to decide that they're going to come here to do their jobs, and they're going to govern, and they're going to put our national security ahead of their own personal political agendas, or they're not. It's really simple, and that's a decision you're going to have to ask the Democrats. What's more important, national security or political agendas? I can't answer that for you. Cecilia?
You just said that the president certainly doesn't want a shutdown. Last year, he tweeted that a shutdown would be a good thing. So what caused his views to
He said it'd be
evolve?
good politics.
Good shutdown.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Look, it's never been a preference of this administration. It wasn't then, it isn't now. And again, if that does happen, the blame, the fault will all lie at one place, because we would like to see a budget deal happen. John?
Sarah?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. In an interview last Friday with Newsmax Television, the ambassador of Pakistan, Ambassador Chaudhry, commented on the president's decision to roll back most of the aid for security assistance to the Islamabad government. And he said Pakistan does not want aid, but more importantly, and I quote, Pakistan wants respect, and Pakistan wants recognition of our work and our contribution and our sacrifices. Regarding the president's comment that Pakistan has responded to the aid with, quote, lies and deceit, he simply said, we won't dwell on that part because it's not beneficial to either party. Your response to Ambassador Chaudhry?
Look, our position is firm that we believe that withdrawing that aid is important, and I would refer you to the State Department on anything beyond that.
Stand by the lies and deceit comment that the president made.
Yes.
Thanks, sir. Two questions here. I just want to follow up on a couple of my colleagues' questions here on negotiations, but on the first point about Steve Bannon. Understood your points about process and how this all works, but sort of broadly, is the White House afraid of what Steve Bannon might say in these interviews?
Not that I'm aware of. I think we've been pretty clear what our position is in regards to this entire process, that there was absolutely no collusion. But in terms of, What he might say, I can't answer that. I can't speculate on that. I can simply tell you that we're following the procedure, whether it was in this committee or any other committee down the road. This is a process that's important to protect, and that's what we're doing.
And on negotiations, the president has talked about wanting to find a bipartisan solution. You said you want Democrats to come to the table. If there is a government shutdown in, 3 days from now, does the buck stop with President Trump?
I'm not sure how it would. The president's laid out what he wants. He wants a budget deal. He wants to have Republicans and Democrats agree on a budget, and we're happy to talk about other things. But the budget should not be tied to a political agenda that the Democrats are driving. Those are two very separate things. Mike?
There's some legal experts are suggesting that the subpoena for Bannon shows this investigation is becoming more aggressive instead of winding down. So a couple questions. Is the president prepared for this investigation to last into the months to come?
And following up on Hallie, would you encourage Bannon to tell all, like his camp is saying he will, to Mueller?
Look, as we've said, regardless of who it is, we're going to be fully cooperative with the special counsel and encourage everybody involved in the process to be fully cooperative. The first part of your question is, are we prepared? I think we've been dealing with this hoax for the better part of a year. If we have to endure the ridiculousness for another month, we can certainly handle it. Do the American people deserve that? No, I don't think they do. Steven.
In the interest of clarity, you've spoken of how the White House counsel's office has been involved in this process of Hill. Has the White House, to this point, actually asserted executive privilege, or are you talking about the potential?
I'm talking about the process. I can't go any further than that.
Quick question on the CR. You speak of how the president would like to see a short-term CR passed. Is he going to lean on the fellow Republicans who are in the House Freedom Caucus to see to it that they vote for it?
Like I just said, we support the short-term CR. Our preference is the longer 2-year budget deal, but we support the short-term.
So the answer would be yes, that he will encourage the House Freedom Caucus to vote for it?
Yes, like I said, we support the short term and think it is certainly better than not having that and having a government shutdown as the alternative. But again, our preference would be a longer term deal. Blake?
Sarah, when you look at the calendar then, January 17th, the budget deal potentially that goes to February 16th, the DACA expiration is up March 5th. Does the president want to see a DACA deal get struck before the next CR would end, or is he willing to potentially take this up to the deadline in early March?
Look, I think what we'd like to see happen is let's make a budget deal by Friday, and then let's come back to work aggressively on Monday and make a deal on DACA and responsible immigration reform. We'd like to do all of those things, and we'd be happy to do them quickly if Democrats are willing to work with us and get on board.
You also are rolling out an infrastructure plan this month, so if the CR gets passed this week, is priority number one next week DACA or trying to get support together for infrastructure?
Look, we very much want to get a deal done on DACA. That's a big priority for us right now, but we can certainly manage more than one thing at a time, as we're used to doing around here. And if infrastructure gets rolled out by the end of the month or the first part of next month, we'll certainly be working on that as well. Kristen.
Sarah, thank you. This weekend, President Trump planning to go to Florida and apparently some celebrations for the 1-year anniversary of his inauguration. Is that appropriate if there is in fact a government shutdown, or would he consider changing his plans?
Again, we hope that Republicans and Democrats will come together and that we'll have a budget deal. We still are focused on that being our top priority. If that doesn't happen and there's a schedule change, we'll certainly let you guys know.
How does he see his role, Sarah, in getting the ball over the finish line? I know you're pointing the finger at Democrats, but bottom line, he's the president. So how does he plan to make sure this government stays open?
Look, we're doing everything we can to encourage members from both sides to make sure that we get a deal. The president has made very clear that his number one priority is our national security and fully funding our military, and that would be obviously something of utmost importance. And I would think that Democrats should share that same passion and priority as the president, and hopefully we don't have to, go through this process come Friday. I'll take one last question. Salute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. North Korea and South Korea have agreed to march together during the Winter Olympics in the opening ceremony under a unified Korea flag. Does the White House support both North Korea and South Korea marching together and coming more closely together during the Olympics?
Look, we see this as an opportunity for the regime to see the value of ending its international isolation by denuclearization. We still are very much focused and hope that that happens. This isn't the first time that the two countries have marched together, and we hope that this experience gives North Korea and its athletes a small taste of freedom, and that rubs off and is something that spreads and impacts in these negotiations.